Please like the video and share it so that it reaches many more people and you get sawaba, or rewards from Allah. This could be a sawabe jariyah or continuous reward for you long after you are gone.
Volume 7, Book 65, number 334. Narrated by Abbas. I asked Aisha, did the Prophet forbid eating the meat of sacrifices offered on Eid al-Adha for more than 3 days? She said, the Prophet did not do this except in the year when the people were hungry, so he wanted the rich to feed the poor. But later we used to store even a trotter of a sheep to eat it 15 days later. She was asked, what compelled you to do so? She smiled and said, the family of Muhammad did not eat to their satisfaction white bread with meat soup for 3 successive days till he met Allah. Volume 7, Book 65, number 335. Narrated by Jabir. We used to carry the meat of the hadis, sacrificed animals, to Medina during the lifetime of the Prophet. Volume 7, Book 65, number 336. Narrated by Anas bin Malik. Allah's apostle said to Abu Talha, seek one of your boys to serve me. Abu Talha mounted me behind him, on his riding animal, and took me to the Prophet. So I used to serve Allah's apostle whenever he dismounted, to stay somewhere. I used to hear him saying very often, O Allah, I seek refuge with you from having worries, sadness, helplessness, laziness, miserliness, cowardice, from being heavily in debt and from being overpowered by other persons unjustly. I kept on serving till we returned from the Battle of Khaybar. The Prophet then brought Safiya bint Huyai, whom he had won from the war booty. I saw him folding up a gown or a garment for her to sit on behind him, on his she-camel. When he reached As-Saba, he prepared hides and placed it on a dining sheet. Then he sent me to invite men, who came and ate, and that was his and Safiya's wedding banquet. Then the Prophet proceeded, and when he noticed, the mountain of Uhud, he said, this mountain loves us, and we love it. When we approached Medina, he said, O Allah, I make the area between its 2 mountains a sanctuary as Abraham has made Mecca a sanctuary. O Allah, bless their mud and sa, special kinds of measure. Volume 7, Book 65, number 337. Narrated by Abdur Rahman bin Abi Layla. We were sitting in the company of Hudhaifa, who asked for water, and a Magian brought him water. But when he placed the cup in his hand, he threw it at him and said, had I not forbidden him to do so more than once or twice? He wanted to say, I would not have done so, adding, but I heard the Prophet saying, do not wear silk or dibaja, and do not drink in silver or golden vessels, and do not eat in plates of such metals, for such things are for the unbelievers in this worldly life and for us in the hereafter. Volume 7, Book 65, number 338. Narrated by Abu Musa al-Ash'ari. Allah's apostle said, the example of a believer who recites the Quran is that of a citron which smells good and tastes good, and the example of a believer who does not recite the Quran is that of a date which has no smell but tastes sweet, and the example of a hypocrite who recites the Quran is that of an aromatic plant which smells good but tastes bitter. And the example of a hypocrite who does not recite the Quran is that of a colocynth plant which has no smell and is bitter in taste. Volume 7, Book 65, number 339. Narrated by Anas. The Prophet said, the superiority of Aisha to other ladies is like the superiority of tharad to other kinds of food. Volume 7, Book 65, number 340. Narrated by Abu Hurairah, the Prophet said, "Traveling is a kind of torture, as it prevents one from sleeping and eating. So when one has finished his job, he should return quickly to his family." Volume 7, Book 65, number 341. Narrated by Qasim bin Muhammad. 3 traditions have been established because of Barira. Aisha intended to buy her and set her free, but Barira's masters said, "Her wallah will be for us." Aisha mentioned that to Allah's apostle, who said, "You could accept their condition if you wished, for the wallah is for the one who manumits the slave." Barira was manumitted, then she was given the choice either to stay with her husband or leave him. One day Allah's apostle entered Aisha's house while there was a cooking pot of food boiling on the fire. The Prophet asked for lunch, and he was presented with bread and some extra food from the home-made udm, e.g. soup. He asked, "Don't I see meat being cooked?" They said, "Yes, O Allah's apostle. But it is the meat that has been given to Barira in charity, and she has given it to us as a present." He said, "For Barira it is alms, but for us it is a present." Volume 7, Book 65, number 342. Narrated by Aisha. Allah's apostle used to love sweet edible things and honey. Narrated by Abu Hurairah. I used to accompany Allah's apostle to fill my stomach, and that was when I did not eat baked bread, nor wear silk. Neither a male nor a female slave used to serve me, and I used to bind stones over my belly and ask somebody to recite a Quranic verse for me, though I knew it, so that he might take me to his house and feed me. Jafar bin Abi Talib was very kind to the poor, and he used to take us and feed us with whatever was available in his house, and if nothing was available, he used to give us the empty, honey or butter, skin which we would tear and lick whatever was in it. Volume 7, Book 65, number 344. Narrated by Anas. Allah's apostle went to the house of his slave tailor, and he was offered a dish of gourd, of which he started eating. "I have loved to eat gourd since I saw Allah's apostle eating it." Volume 7, Book 65, number 345. Narrated by Abu Mas'ud al-Ansari. There was a man called Abu Shu'aib, and he had a slave who was a butcher. He said to his slave, "Prepare a meal to which I may invite Allah's apostle along with 4 other men." So he invited Allah's apostle and 4 other men, but another man followed them, whereupon the Prophet said, "You have invited me as one of 5 guests, but now another man has followed us. If you wish you can admit him, and if you wish you can refuse him." On that the host said, "But I admit him." Narrated Muhammad bin Ismail. If guests are sitting at a dining table, they do not have the right to carry food from other tables to theirs, but they can pass on food from their own table to each other. Otherwise they should leave it. Volume 7, Book 65, number 346. Narrated by Anas. I was a young boy when I once was walking with Allah's apostle. Allah's apostle entered the house of his slave tailor, and the latter brought a dish filled with food covered with pieces of gourd. Allah's apostle started picking and eating the gourd. When I saw that, I started collecting and placing the gourd before him. Then the slave returned to his work. Anas added, "I have kept on loving gourd since I saw Allah's apostle doing what he was doing." Volume 7, Book 65, number 347. Narrated by Anas bin Malik. A tailor invited the Prophet to a meal which he had prepared, and I went along with the Prophet. The tailor presented barley bread and soup containing gourd and cured meat. I saw the Prophet picking the pieces of gourd from around the dish, and since then I have kept on liking gourd.